What's up, Modern Contractor TV? Teddy here. In this episode, we sit down with Chris Barr from KC Acquisitions. We are going to dive in deep into the mindset of a ETA, Entrepreneur Through Acquisition. What does that mean? Somebody who is currently looking to purchase a home service contracting business. How do you find companies for sale? Is it offline? Is it online? Is it through a broker? We dive into if you are currently in the home services industry and you want to buy your competition, how do you go about doing that? So I think you guys are going to get a ton of value out of this episode. Let's get into it.
You're listening to Modern Contractor TV, the show for home service pros who want to build real business value, scale profits, and create a company that doesn't rely on them day to day. Hosted by entrepreneur, author, and advisor Teddy Slack, a builder of multiple seven-figure service businesses. Each episode brings you real-world strategies to help you grow, systemize, and prepare for a profitable exit. Let's get into it.
All right. What's up, Chris? Welcome to Modern Contractor TV, man.
Hey, what's going on, Teddy? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. I'm excited to have you on today. So tell the listeners a little bit about yourself and what you're up to right now and what we're going to get into today, because I think it's a super important topic for home service contractors that they have this idea of, if they want to sell, what are the buyers looking for? Because right now you are in a position to look for a home service business that you're currently searching for. So tell people what you're up to and, a little bit about yourself.
Correct. Yeah. Thanks, Teddy. I'm a searcher in the, kind of exploding and vastly growing entrepreneurship through acquisition. We call it ETA space. So I'm out looking for a home service home service business to purchase. And tell you what you're kind of referring to is, what are the buyers looking for? We refer to that as a buy box. And every buyer's buy box is different. That could change if you're working with institutional lenders or if you're working with other investors. You might be targeting a business that's more in that, $5 to $7 million range where they've got, robust operations. They've got crews, they've got management, they've got, full suite of services. You might be working with other buyers that are just I'm what they call an independent. I was referring to an independent sponsor. I'm a self-funded searcher. So as a self-funded searcher, I'm not using SBA loans, but a lot of us are. I'd say the vast majority of self-funded searchers are using SBA. So they might be looking for something more like a $500,000, $800,000 business, something that's might be bringing in revenue, a little bit less than $1 million, maybe between $1 and $2 million. I would say that's really more reflective of my buy box. But again, every searcher is different based on kind of how they're structuring their deal, how they're structuring their capital, where they're sourcing their capital from, and then also personal preference. I would say that HVAC has kind of been the darling of the PE world, and there's a lot of people out there who love HVAC and want to snag those up and pay premiums for them. Good on them. I think it's a necessary service. I think it's a fairly simple and straightforward business as compared to like maybe plumbing or electrical or things that seem, I could even be wrong about that, but seem a bit more technical. But was just talking with a buyer who's like, yeah, I'm not interested in HVAC or plumbing at all. I don't want calls on the weekends. I want something where he's actually kind of focusing on electrical because, again, he doesn't want to answer those weekend calls. And that's just out of his own personal preference. Yep. My personal preference is I'm actually staying away from stuff that does feel very technical, stuff like plumbing. HVAC's a bit on the fence because I did it a bit growing up. And then I'm staying away from electrical as well, simply because if I don't feel confident that I can get my arms around it and understand this business within 6 months, I don't feel comfortable owning it. And that's part of what I advertise myself as a buyer is my versatility, flexibility, adaptability. I've been in the Marine Corps, infantry. I've been a substitute teacher. I've been in, high-end real estate finance. I've been a, just kind of average retail broker, kind of kicking the streets. So I've been and done a lot of different things. So I can pick something up fast, but it needs to be pressure washing, roofing, event rental, I would say landscaping, painting, all things that are trades that you can really get your arms around in a short period of time with good owner overlap is what I'm really placing as a premium on my buy box. So a little bit of a long-winded answer. I apologize.
No, that's okay. There's a lot to unwrap there. It's awesome, man. I mean, the first thing that you said that I'd like to kind of dive into a little bit of it. So the way you're structuring this is you're not going with an SBA loan. So can you dive into a little bit about why you're deciding to kind of forego the SBA loan route? Because a lot of guys are, they think that's the only option, right? So why don't you talk about why you're not doing that and dive into that a little bit?
Sure, yeah, and it's different strokes for different folks. And I've been very, very fortunate to have a real estate portfolio that I've been building since like my early 20s. That I've built up enough equity in now that I can go and leverage that for a business purchase. And I have a lender that I've worked with on my real estate transactions who's fantastic. Small local lender out of Illinois, where I'm originally from. And, it's simply, I can just get better rates. I think that SBA 7A and again, because I'm not using it, I haven't looked into the particulars, but I think they take prime and plus like 6 or so points on top of that. And so at that point, you're looking at like a 10-12% interest rate, and your debt service coverage ratio gets like so razor thin. And so basically I'm looking at more of like a 7-ish interest rate, 7% for like a 15
that's a big difference
amortization.
Yeah.
So I mean, it makes it just economics on a deal so much more flexible because I have this lender relationship set up. But I understand I can't go preach to the masses like, forget the 7A, like just go to your local lender. It's like I have a benefit of having a relationship there that might not be accessible to others. So different folks.
That makes a bunch of sense, man. I totally agree with that. I mean, listen, SBA is good for certain people and for certain situations. And I don't knock it all the time, but there are other ways. That's why I like to find out, like, hey, why did you decide to not go that route? Because I mean, listen, there's all kinds of ways that you could go about it, structuring the deal, and SBA is one of those many. So. And you said, so you're focusing on maybe more of a non-technical, like we said, roofing, power washing, that type of stuff. So that's interesting to me because I recently, as I started to look into the roofing industry, and I'm actually launching a residential roofing business that I'm going to be bootstrapping. So, kind of dive into why you're staying away from that more technical. I know the reasons why I did it, like, because I've run businesses before, and, for me, just basically the systems and the processes, the licensing, the manpower that need to be educated and licensed and experienced, right? So you want to dive into that a little bit too, why you're staying away from those technical side of businesses?
Sure. And again, I'm adaptable and versatile, but it's something like plumbing where there's like, again, licensure and there's, all these issues that come up. And like, I feel like you need to go to trade school and you need to be a bona fide plumber to really feel confident owning in that space. And also, let's kind of back up a second to the other generalities of the buy box. I'm looking for something between like realistically like 750 on the low end to like 1.5 to 2.
And you're talking about revenue, right? You're talking about revenue?
No, I'm talking about total business purchase price. So that would be a revenue of like right around like 2-ish, maybe a skosh above million. But I would say like, 1.5, like 2.5 million in revenue is generally what I'm seeing for the businesses I'm looking at. And at that revenue level, you sometimes have like a foreman or some kind of ops manager in-house that can like help out with these things. But that's a lot of concentration in one person. I was looking at a $5 million business and they have a chief operations officer and a chief technology officer, and they've got more of a suite of
middle management
that can insulate me. That's one thing. But at a business doing 2 million in revenue that has an ops manager or a foreman, if he leaves or if he calls in sick, like there's not a lot I can do on a busted pipe. Having come from a building that just busted a fire suppression line and flooded 8 floors, like I wouldn't be comfortable putting hands on that.
No, 100%. I mean, I 100% agree. And you're exactly right. I mean, at that level, you're not having middle management. You're not going to, if something goes wrong, you got to step in and do it. I mean, that's one of the things when I'm going into the roofing space, it's a brand new industry for me. So, obviously I have to learn that industry. Like you said, it'd probably take me a good 6 months of really understanding it, doing it, and going through that process to learn it. But the nice part about the roofing industry, which I've learned over the last couple of months, is it's like 90% of the companies are a subcontracted model. They use subcontractors for the installs of the roofs. Yep. They're 1099 subcontractors. So for me, it's like infinitely scalable compared to my last business, which I was in the environmental industry. We had to have special licenses. All my guys had to be special licensed. We had heavy equipment. I had dump trucks, excavators. I needed to deal with the state and the townships. In New Jersey, there's no inspections for roofs. There's no permits. I mean, it's just a completely different business model. So I think knowing what type of business model you want to go after is important because, it can complicate things a lot, especially if you're looking to get in at the level you're looking to get into. Because like for me, I was going to offer, do I offer roof repairs? Because a lot of roofers don't offer roof repairs is what I'm learning. They only do the installs and replacements. So what I found is they don't like to have W-2 employees in-house that could go out there and do the repairs because now you need to have the workman's comp for these guys and, the same thing. But I feel like, basically that's a plus, right? So if you have a service that you can offer that no one else is offering, which helps, but it does put me in that precarious situation because I'm bringing on a guy who can do that. But if something happens to him, I don't know how to go repair a roof and I don't want to repair a roof. I have backup options, but those are all these thoughts that you have to go in your mind. And I think you're on the right track, what your thought process is going into this. Talk a little bit about too, so is there a specific area that you're looking at? Are you really want to concentrate in one specific area? Are you willing to go far out? What are your thoughts with that?
Yeah, absolutely. And again, this is just like you're asking Chris Barr, and so you're getting Chris Barr's kind of buy box. There's a lot of searchers out there who aggressively open themselves up nationwide, will go kind of where the best opportunity is, and salute to those people. I moved down to West Palm Beach about 18 months ago.
Nice.
Man, Florida's great.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to leave anytime soon. Weather's beautiful. Really enjoying kind of what we've structured life to look like down here. And it's weird not to get super philosophical on you, man, but I felt very guilty about that up front of should I not be aggressive, hungry, go where the opportunity is? It's no, you get into entrepreneurship and you get into this space so you can structure life to look like what you want it to.
100%.
It's okay. Yep. It's okay to say, I like living here. This is where I want to be. I'm going to find a small business in this area, establish myself as a pillar of this community. There is nothing wrong with that. So to answer your question, my area is between Boca Raton on the southern end and then Vero Beach on the northern end. So about 4 counties here in South Florida. It's just where I want to be. The projected growth here is insane. And I think Miami and Lauderdale is, I wouldn't say tapped out, but I'm also just kind of done living in the big cities. So I kind of really love the growth scale opportunity of where I'm at and just kind of be lifestyle. So
yeah. No, that's awesome. Let me take a quick minute to let you know about something that's genuinely changing the game for contractors right now. The software is called LiveSwitch. You know how much time we waste by going out and doing free site visits? LiveSwitch lets you send a link to your prospective clients where they could pull up a video that will be recorded. There's laser pointers inside this technology where you could point them to show you where the problem is. It could be a leaking pipe. It could be an electrical issue that's not working. It could be an area of concern in the backyard where you're not sure if there's access and you want to see if your equipment's going to fit back there. Well, you no longer have to drive to the property. You just send a link to your client. They pull up their phone and boom, you're able to see live exactly what's going on. You're able to then integrate AI into this. We'll record all the notes. It'll summarize the call. It'll take photos of what you're seeing and document all this so you could not have to drive out to the site. I personally saved thousands of hours by selling clients over the phone before LiveSwitch existed. And I took risk all the time because I didn't know if there was access for my equipment. I didn't, the clients couldn't really explain what was going on. With this technology, I would have saved myself tons of money by just winging it and sending quotes without actually seeing the job. If you guys want to get a free demo of this software, click the link in the description. It'll send you to a scheduling calendar link where you could check this out and see if it's a good fit for your business. Now, what are your plans as far as when you do purchase this company? Are you going to be purchasing this company? Is this something you'd like to run as like a lifestyle business? Or are you looking to purchase this and build it for value purposes with the optionality to maybe sell it in 3 to 5 years? Do you have an end goal in mind? Or is this more just like, hey, I just want to get into this entrepreneurship thing. I want to get into home services. Kind of touch on that a little bit.
Sure. And then I'm also not trying to go down the rabbit hole, but I had a pressure washing company under contract. And we were at diligence between roughly May or mid-May. And then I just killed it beginning of August. So I'm really since August and the kind of this first half of September, I've really just been like going back to the drawing board and trying to figure out kind of what my game plan is and kind of coming at the search a little bit more efficiently, a little bit more sophisticated this second time around. But as far as exits go, one thing I've kind of learned through this rediscovery process is most small businesses, like owners, don't ever sell. And if they do, it's like 15 to 20 years out. So kind of coming in and kind of having this image in your mind that you're going to scale it, you're going to grow it 3 to 7 years out, you're going to exit. Not always so realistic unless you're working as a traditional searcher with a PE fund, et cetera, et cetera. If you're kind of going with that whole like PE model, that might be an option available to you. But for a lot of self-funded searchers, like if you buy something, you better plan on owning it. Like you better plan on it staying around for a while. So I would like the flexibility to sell. We do have real estate holdings and that don't require a ton of attention, but if that grows and if that end of my portfolio scales, I'd like the opportunity to step away from the business, sell it, et cetera, to put focus on that. But it's also at a point where I don't need to, so I allow myself the flexibility to either keep it around, lifestyle it, do it for 18 to 20 years, which I genuinely would love doing, but I also want to keep that flexibility. So it's my fancy way of saying I don't have it quite figured out yet.
And that's totally cool. Yeah, no, that's totally fine. I mean, listen, I'm going into this roofing space, same thing. I mean, I have this idea of maybe 3 to 5 years. We'll see where we're at essentially. But like I was saying before, I believe it's infinitely scalable. You could open a roofing company anywhere in the country, as opposed to my last business. It was very niche. I could really only do it in New Jersey. The laws change as soon as you go over the border to Pennsylvania, Connecticut, New York. So it wasn't really infinitely scalable. And, this I feel like is. So I'm kind of keeping that same mindset. I don't know. We'll see kind of where it goes. I'll run the books clean. I'll try to keep it. I'll try to set it up so it doesn't depend on me. And then, hey, whatever happens in 3 to 5 years, we'll see. Maybe I keep going to 10. That's kind of the mindset that I have.
Totally. Yeah. No, I think that again, flexibility is a big reason a lot of people get into the entrepreneurial space. So to kind of like turn a blind eye to that flexibility is doing yourself a disservice. So
100%.
No, that makes sense, man.
Yeah. So let me ask you this: Have you put any thought into bootstrapping a business as opposed to going out there and buying a business, and where like, what's your mindset around that? And what do you think about that?
Yeah, totally. So actually I originally kind of got turned on to the idea of a pressure washing business, which really became one of like my top preferred sectors. Because a guy approached me that I knew here in Florida and kind of wanted to bootstrap one and be the operating partner. Great dude. And if he's watching, like, God bless you, still love you. But he just ended up, it was not going to be a good match. So I kind of backed off of the bootstrapping option there, but kind of saw the potential of like, hey, for a pretty minimal investment for a few $100,000, a couple $100,000, maybe like less than 2 in equipment, I might be able to start something that I have a good equity percentage of that kind of takes off and grows and scales, and so it was a little bit exciting for how little investment was required for some potential upside, but glad it didn't work out. And bootstrapping really isn't my thing. And again, kudos to people who do it. It absolutely can be done. My analogy for why I don't like doing it is I have a cousin who lives out in LA, is a sick guitar player, absolutely incredible, super talented. He's in a band and they play, and God bless, I hope that they blow up and hit the Grammy someday. But it doesn't matter how good you are out in LA as a musician. It doesn't matter how much talent you have. Getting noticed, having something take off takes these strokes of luck that are so out of your control. And I also come from the franchising world of Jimmy John's, like quick service restaurants. And again, I've seen franchisees do everything right, abide by the book to a T, and just struggle to get things moving. And I think it's that initial liftoff, you're getting something off the ground, which is where so much of your risk is concentrated. So if I can just bypass that initial getting it off the ground phase and buy something that's been around for, I'm really only looking at businesses that have been around for over 10 years, ideally more than 20. If you've weathered COVID, if you've weathered 2008, and I can see that in your books, like, I feel a lot safer going to sleep at night than something that I've got money wrapped into that has no proof of of success yet. So that's really my mentality. It's risk at the end of the day.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And I like that viewpoint. I mean, it absolutely is. Initially getting it off the ground is the part that is, in my opinion, is the toughest part, because, yeah, you're unknown. You're going into a brand new market and there's no name, there's nothing. And it is a scary concept. And I've done it now several times and I'm doing it again. And it's still scary for me. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, shoot, I'm putting all this money into this thing. Like, I got to just get my name out there. I got to get the phone in the ring. And it's just a slow crawl initially. And yeah, once you get past that, but no, 100%. So, I mean, I actually entertained buying a roofing company. I reached out to a couple of the people in my market, sat with a few of them, talked about the way we could structure it, and just nothing. We just couldn't work it out to where it made sense for everybody involved. But I, stayed close with them. We're still kind of, friendly, and we'll probably still work together, even though we're in the same market. I'm going to help them with some marketing, and they're helping me with some contacts in the roofing space, which is cool. And that's what I learned about this whole, going out there and searching and talking to other entrepreneurs and other business owners. Everybody is willing to talk and be open and everything, which is really cool. You wouldn't think that. You're like, oh, these guys could be a potential competitor. But I feel like most of the entrepreneurs are open, to discuss and talk and share ideas and stuff, which I think is pretty cool,
Yeah, no, that's the thing I found through having that pressure washing company under contract is there is generally in most sectors, and I would assume most markets, there's room at the table for everybody.
Yep.
There is multiple competitors. There's people that cross paths, and there's a pretty friendly environment, at least down here in South Florida. That's what I was also really encouraged by. It was, I would call people up, initially see if they wanted to sell their pressure washing business. Like, no, we're not selling, but hey, listen, man, if you ever got questions about the trade or anything like that, give us a shout. I'm like, geez, is a fellow competitor? Man, so yeah, pretty warm environment.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And so this whole search process for you, I mean, when did it start? How long have you been doing it? How much time are you putting it and effort are you putting into it on a daily basis, would you say?
Sure. Man, you're picking a hell of a week to ask me that one. But yeah, I would say I started Jan 1. It was probably about beginning of November last year that I knew that this was what I wanted to do. And I took last 2 months to read as many books as I can, listen to all the podcasts. It was just as much educating on kind of this process as I could. Started the search in earnest Jan 1. And those first few months were really just kind of building the machine, building my broker database, kind of building out my buy box, setting up my LLC, my website, et cetera, et cetera. So, and then kind of fielding those first few businesses, looking at your first few listings, and like, I don't know what the hell I'm looking at, and then getting a feel for it and learning to kind of be more efficient with your time and weed things out. And I think that, and throw a shameless plug out here. So the Jed Morris's Search School has been the most fantastic resource. I think that kicked off about a month ago. So what does the process look like? That resource has kind of showed me how inefficiently I was going about the process the first time around. So there's going to be a lot more automation of workflows and systems and tools I'm going to build out. Now that I'm kind of restriking the pavement. But I would say, this is a time-consuming process, and people can do it part-time. People can be searching while holding a full-time job. I don't want to discourage anybody from doing that and abandoning your safety net in order to search, but it is very, very time-consuming, and you have to be very, very dedicated to juggle it. While doing a full-time job, I'm fortunate that I'm leaning on real estate holdings to kind of help fund my life while I search. But it is an 8 to 10 hour a day gig at minimum. A lot of long nights and reviewing listings, being first to put an LOI in if there's something out there attractive that you like. But that's the beautiful thing about entrepreneurship is it's flexible. So yeah, I'm putting in a solid 10 hours a day, but if the surf looks good and I want to go out for a quick session and then work in the evening, I have the I have the flexibility to do that. So
which is cool.
That's what it's looked like. A lot of reviewing businesses, a lot of reviewing CIMs, and then once we were under due diligence with the pressure washing company, that was all hands on deck all day, every day for 3 months. So it's a bit of a look at it.
Yeah, no, that's awesome, man. I mean, it definitely is. It's a lot of time and effort going into analyzing the numbers, then finding out if those are accurate numbers, and going, because I'm sure you get a lot of the stuff you get initially. Because I've looked at companies too from brokers, and they're like, they send me stuff. I'm like, what am I looking at here? This is like something you just looks like you put together yesterday and sent it over to me. I want, you know what I mean? So you probably run into a lot of that, right?
Oh yeah, and when you said, oh, I'm going to do this roofing company, I'm going to run the books clean. I'm like,
Yep.
God bless you,
Yes.
Teddy. Like, so many people are just not running
Yeah.
clean books. I'm like, I get it. Nobody
Yep.
likes paying Uncle Sam,
Yep.
but like, dude, don't expense your new boat through your business.
Yeah.
Like,
No,
it's
exactly.
like stuff like that. And then also, you made a great point with 1099s, and that's another thing that we would run into a lot. I was looking into pool service companies for a good bit, and that's one that's kind of on the fence with 1099 W-2. And you got to really be careful about that kind of stuff, because a lot of people will classify all their labor as 1099 because they don't have to pay the workers' comp. It's easier and less of a hassle for the owner. But if people are in branded trucks and branded shirts, and you're going
across
and
the
sending
line,
them to do stuff, like, that's a W-2, man.
Yes.
And now I have to, if I'm looking at a business where they've classified workers as 1099 and they should be W-2, I have to go and redo all the numbers and figure out, for me to run this properly, what's my new expense going to actually look like, and how's that going to impact bottom line? So
yeah, it's very smart. You're looking at exactly the right thing to do, because maybe they haven't got caught, but you could buy that company tomorrow, and then all of a sudden, now that you get audited, boom, now you thought you were making, I don't know, $200,000 in profit, but now it's all gone because you got to pay workers' comp.
Mm-hmm. And that's been a big thing of kind of how we run our business. Since I was a kid, I came from a family of entrepreneurs, and trying to shortcut on taxes and taking the risk of audits and all that stuff. It's just so not how we play ball. And no shame. I get, if you expect that you're ever going to look for and find a business that runs perfectly clean books and didn't over expense to try to avoid paying taxes, you're not going to find it. Everybody does it, and it's no shame on the people that do. But it's just not how I choose to do things. So I got to account for that when I readjust numbers.
Yeah, no, 100%. Now you mentioned pool maintenance. You mentioned power washing. So can you kind of dive into a little bit about, are you considering the average ticket, of these companies? So why not look at something with higher ticket as opposed to lower ticket? Do you have like a game plan to scale these things? So kind of explain why you're talking about certain industries over others.
Totally. And I think I don't know if it's, I don't know if it's brilliant or idiotic. It's one of the two, and I haven't figured it out yet. But I think that since I am looking in such a tight geographic area, I've been up to this point pretty agnostic as far as kind of what sectors I'm looking at. But each sector kind of comes with their own picadillos. Each sector kind of comes along with its own nuances. So, for example, the reason I love the pressure washing business that we had under contract was they did not really do much residential at all. They did not want to have, they were a bigger organization. They had 3 trucks, 12 members of the crew. They were doing big time HOAs, bunch of municipalities where, a lot of their better customers. So those were higher ticket items. That's they're doing $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 jobs pretty consistently. And they're not going to go spend time bidding on somebody's house just to get outbid by a Chuck in a truck who got a Home Depot pressure washer in the back of his F-150. So for that sector, for pressure washing specifically, I'm looking for a high ticket item there. For pools, it's a bit of a different story, and you actually really don't want to do a lot of HOAs, big condo complexes, because you're getting paid on one pool. It's the same size, give or take, as somebody's residential pool, and now you're on the hook for every weekend call, every after hours thing, and it's for a same ticket price roughly. And so the thing about pools being a smaller ticket price, that does come out with its own issues. But the cool thing about that, as far as scalability goes, there's pool routes going up for sale all the time. We've got 200 pools on our route. We're selling it for a few $100,000. So once you get one operation, get your arms around it, get your crew solid, kind of get the operation set, then buying a second string of 200 pools and buying 200 accounts and just kind of growing through acquisition there seems pretty simple. So that was kind of my plan for a lower ticket item versus a higher ticket item, et cetera.
Yeah, no, that makes sense, and that's quite why I wanted to ask. I mean, I have a friend. It was actually a neighbor who was in the high ticket power washing business. A guy made very very good money. He did very well for himself. Had a lot of big clients, and so it's a complete. It's just similar to roofing, where you could get into roofing, but you can go into a couple different verticals. You go into insurance, you could go to metal roofs, asphalt roofs. There's a lot of different ways you could go, a lot of different angles, and it's similar with power washing. You go to commercial, you could go to residential. So I think you got it dialed in with definitely focusing on the higher ticket power washing for sure. And the pool, I would imagine the pool industry down there in Florida, forget about it. I mean, everybody's got a pool. It's all year round. It's not like up here in Northeast where it's 3 months out of the year. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, and I was talking with this on a Jack Carr's owned and operated podcast. Jacquisitions is the kind of subcast that we're doing, but we were talking about pools and how it's and what a necessary business is. He's in HVAC, which is obviously super necessary down here in Florida. It's not like a once, like you could die without AC down here in Florida. And so, kind of, what is a necessary business, and that's kind of you're going through the hierarchy of it, of like kind of plumbing really at the top, then HVAC and electrical, and then where does pools stack up in that? It's actually a little bit more necessary than you think because these are regulated by HOAs. Like if you allow your pool to get scummy and green and just let it go to crap, someone's going to notify you.
Yep.
And while it might not be as necessary as HVAC, if you're like on the verge of getting your home foreclosed on, you probably default to the HVAC over the HOA issues of having a scummy pool. But like, at that point, you're probably up a creek anyways. You know what I'm saying? If you can't get your pool serviced and you're going to get hollered at HVAC, you're probably foreclosing the home at that point anyways. So it still fits within a comfortable stack of necessity, I guess I would say.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I would 100% agree with that. And I've heard that there are a lot of pool routes down in Florida that go up for sale. I mean, as far as deal flow, so I know you mentioned going to the brokers, right? That's one way to get deal flow. So are you trying other avenues? Are you going directly to some of these guys? I know you said you reached out to some of them. So is that something that you're implementing as well?
Yeah, and I think that's going to be what I'm hoping is the biggest improvement kind of in my search 2.0 now that I'm kind of reinventing things.
Yep.
You got to go through the brokers. You'd be remiss not to.
Yep.
That being said, like I'm a commercial real estate broker, so like I come from the brokerage world. Like I get it, but my fellow brokers, like it's tough out there. And also there's no licensing process.
I know.
Like you can just throw
anybody
business broker on your business card and like, congratulations. So it's a mixed bag out there, man. And you're going to get a lot of like broker isms and, us searchers lament about kind of that broker process. I don't want to talk smack on them. Then there have been a few really, really great ones. And when you find a good one, they're worth their weight in gold. Yeah. So like, you absolutely need to be staying in touch with brokers. You need to know what's actively out in the market. And also, like, it's not to say that there's not good deals actively listed. Like, they are out there. Strip mall guy on LinkedIn was talking about this in kind of the retail strip mall space. Like, yeah, there's still good deals on market. It's not like every good deal is always off market. But if that's all you're doing is looking at listed deals, you're also missing a huge opportunity. So my first go around, I reached out to a contractor on Upwork and I said, hey, here are the parameters to kind of look through websites and look through painters, pressure washers, see kind of how many trucks they have based on pictures. Obviously, no one's going to post like their revenue on their website, as great as that would be. But here are kind of the keys to look for, and go and take these take these qualities and go look for as many painters and pressure washers as you can find. They spit me a big giant list. I just kind of started cold calling them. So again, there's probably more efficient ways to do that and more efficient ways to build automated workflows that kind of work on your behalf. So looking forward to kind of implementing those. I'm still kind of new in that reinvention. But yeah, hunting on market and off market and learning to hold that balance is key to any good search process for sure.
No, 100%. So I have some experience with that because back, So in 2011, I bought my first competitor, and then I bought my next one in 2013, and then 18 we bought a third one, and that was in the environmental business in New Jersey. And the way I did it was by literally just reaching out to the competitors. And initially, it just started out by like, I would see them at trade shows, and I'd go up there, shake their hand. We'd both have a booth. Hey, how you doing? We're in the same business. Just be friendly. Once again, you're just kind of talking and being friendly with everybody, and people like to talk. And hey, let's share numbers if you need anything. Sometimes I'd send them equipment, or they send me equipment, or guys, whatever, and we just kept that relationship. And then they come to me and be like, hey, you know what? I'm on out. Like I'm done with the business. And, one of the deals, the company actually was going under because these two corporate guys bought it, and they didn't really have experience in the environmental industry, and it didn't work out for them. So they had approached me to help them, and I wind up doing a deal with them, for their phone number essentially. And so there's so many ways you could structure it. And I do believe reaching out to these contractors just with a simple letter, because that's what I started doing in 2018. I just sent out a very simple letter like, hey, you guys see me on YouTube, because I created a YouTube channel for that space. And I'm like, I know you probably see me. I'm like, I'd love to talk to you guys if you're interested in maybe partnership or whatever. And you would never believe. I mean, out of, I don't know, if I sent 50 letters out, I got like a couple people that would call me, and not right away. It would take a couple months maybe, but then all of a sudden out of the blue, you get a phone call. Hey, I got your letter sitting on my desk. I got it 6 months ago, but I'm interested. You want to sit down for lunch? And then boom, you go, and then, you can meet these guys, and you just never know where these contractors are out, where they're at, right? Maybe like you said, they're in business for 20 years, but they're tired of running the business, and they're at that level where they're $1 million, $2 million in revenue, but they're involved with day to day. They're wearing all these hats, and they want to get out. So I think, they don't know where to turn, a lot of these guys. So if you're the guy who's reaching out to them, you know what I mean? I think that's a great opportunity for sure.
Yeah, no, I think you hit on something fantastic with the letters, and it's kind of, I gotta tread lightly in kind of how I phrase this, but I think a big reason that I specifically am, excited about the idea of a home service business, and I think a reason a lot of people are, is it's somewhat impervious to technology a little bit. That's not to say that you can ignore tech and not implement AI and use all the tech tools available to grow and scale and run a good operation, but it's not as dependent on it. I'm not worried about Amazon coming in and co-opting the HVAC space as much as something else. With that, and I'm also kind of like a boomer at heart, which is why I love kind of some of these other like boomer businesses and working with that generation. But the methods of outreach also kind of go in line with that, and actually sending old school hard copy letters goes miles with these people. And so I think that is tapping into methods like that is huge. Had a very close friend who's a real estate broker, would go around town and would write, go write down the property address, go look up in public records who owns it, and go write every owner a letter. And wrote this lady a letter and said, hey, I'd love to, buy your building at some point if you're ever interested in selling. She goes, when I die, someone will call you. Sure enough, 10 years later, somebody calls them, hey, we're going through my mom's estate. She just passed away. Yeah, she had it in here to give you a call about
something. Oh, my gosh, that's awesome.
So again, go write the letter, man. You never know what's going to shake out. So, always worth the time.
Yeah, no, that's awesome, man. I mean, you just never know. You never know where the contractors are at, and it's all about timing. You get in front of them at the right time. They open that letter, and they're thinking, shoot, you know what? Let me just give this guy a call, and it may not be right then, but maybe it's a couple months down the road, and it definitely works. I know for firsthand, and it's a strategy that I'm definitely going to implement even going forward in the roofing business, because once I get up and going, I get a team behind me, and I feel confident. Then I'll start reaching out to the competitors, because even the smaller guys, I would take guys that were doing only $400,000 or $500,000 in revenue, but once I plugged them into my system, it was like, boom, I just forwarded the call to my office staff. We just took on that revenue. That basically, was just overnight. It's like picking up $500,000 revenue overnight, No.
And that's the thing is, it's all about kind of where you get that ball rolling. And I think it kind of goes back to your note about kind of bootstrapping versus buying. But once you kind of have something bought, to look at fellow competitors, like you already have an ecosystem set up to just kind of plug things into it, seems like the easiest way to scale. Again, it's kind of getting that first deal under your belt, which is where I'm currently at. That's the hard part. But once you have that, especially with something like a pool route, or, et cetera, once I have an ecosystem there, to use that to scale up seems like, again, I sit here from the outside looking in like, oh, it's such low hanging fruit. Oh, it's so easy. Like, no. I'm sure there is plenty of hiccups, and you take on additional risk, and you've got to, go and finance these purchases. Like I get it's not that simple, but Oh man, looking from the other side of the fence, it
Yeah,
looks
yeah.
awfully nice. I'll tell you that much.
No, it definitely can be. I mean, I actually, I think I coined the term, but I like to say I did, but blue collar M&A, right? So that's the way I kind of like to describe it, because it's like, you're not going to get an SBA loan. You don't need to go get a huge financing note to do these deals. A lot of these guys on the smaller side that are the 300 to 500,000 revenue, maybe 800,000 revenue, you can structure those deals like I have in the past, where it's like, hey, like the one guy, I structured the deal off top line revenue. So I knew our profits were about 30%. So I'm like, listen, I'll give you half of the profits for every time your phone rings, you sell it. The guy wanted to be out of the business. He didn't want, he was like a one-man operation. He had a little helper here and there, but he was bringing in a decent amount of revenue. So I was like, listen, you want to be out of the business? How about do sales for me remotely? All you gotta do is, because these are your people, right? He had done no marketing. It was all referral based from the business. He's been in it for 35 years. So I was, at the time, I'm like, I do all online marketing. I don't have any referral base right now. So I'm like, this is perfect. So you come on, I'm like, and I want you to take the calls, because these are your connections, right? Because if they call in and now I'm picking up the phone, they're like, well, where's Walter? Like, oh, Walter's no longer here. I bought his company. They might not want to use me. But if he's still answering the phone and selling it and then just passing the information to my office, boom, now I keep that revenue flowing. They're not leaving. And now we're just doing the fulfillment aspect of it. And then I would pay him half of the profit. So 15% off top line. So I only paid for his business if I got a deal. And I did that for about 5 years. That was the contract term. So I didn't have to come up with a lot of money. I didn't have to come up with any money. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he was happy, because he's like, great, I'm out of operations. I don't have to worry about insurance. I get rid of my insurance. I get rid of my equipment. So he was so happy. He was keeping 15% of the profit. So, you could structure these deals so many different ways, especially at that level when they're on the smaller side,
Yeah, it is. And that's one thing that Jed Morris from Surge School constantly refers to the ETA space as. He's like, this is the wild west of capitalism. Like anything goes out here. But I love that, because I think that was a huge inspiration for why I kind of wanted to get out of more corporate real estate and stuff like that I was doing is, man, like, from every organization I've come from, whether it was the Marine Corps or kind of big corporate real estate structures, like, you get bureaucracy and common sense just starts eroding.
Yes.
Like, it falls by the wayside. And so to watch that disconnect happen over and over again, it was just like so mind numbing and just disheartening. And that's what I loved about the idea of ETA and buying my own little small shop that I can run on common sense and good Midwestern values. Like, that's what I love, is you can take a deal structure and just apply your own damn common sense to it. Of like, hey buddy, like, what's going to work for you? What's going to make you happy? This is, I think, what can make me happy. Let's mash them together and make a deal here. And I did pretty much the same thing. I can't like say it from a perspective of success, because the deal didn't go through. But the earnout structure I had with this pressure washing company was great. They loved it. I loved it. And a lot of people, it took me getting through the deal to see the wisdom in it, but it was a bottom line earnout. So I basically said, hey, listen, I'm going to take my debt service expense through the business. I'm going to take the ops manager I need to bring on, expense through the business. I'm going to set an income cap for myself. And then, hey, any income over the top of that goes back to you guys in the form of an earnout. And listen, like, I'm happy to leave plenty of meat on the bone. I want to work hard and get as big of a bottom line as possible, even if my income is capped, because that way I pay you guys back, get out of the earnout as quick as possible. And I also make it a better oiled machine for whenever I'm done with the earnout, so I can capture the full earnings. It works for it. So it's good for you guys. It's good for me, because if something is not going well with the business for God, whatever reason, you guys are incentivized to step in, help out, get this ship righted, because your earnout depends on that bottom line. So it was very unorthodox, and a lot of people said it's not a good idea. And in hindsight, I kind of see why they were saying that now. But again, we were able to do something totally outside the box that really worked for both parties. So that's one thing I love about this space is the flexibility there.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'll give you one more example too that I did. So the first company I ever bought was actually a competitor. Like I said, they were going under. They bought the company. They paid $2 million in cash, which is like literally out of their pocket. They came from a very wealthy family. And I knew the owner, the previous owner they bought from, and they paid $2 million cash for the business. And they came in right away, first thing. And as you know, I mean, you buy a business, you don't want to make many changes, right? So these guys came in, they hired all their friends from apparently AA. They were part of AA. So horrible mistake. They're like, for all these, and not only did they hire these guys, they were paying them six figures. They're like, they were running it like it was this massive company. They're like, oh, you get 100 grand, you get 200 grand, you're middle management. I mean, this is like a $2 million a year revenue business or something. You know, this is not a huge business. So all of a sudden they can't make their payments. They can't pay their vendors. Well, now they can't pay their vendors. What happens? They collected all this deposit money for these jobs that they can't fulfill because the vendors shut them off. So they called me up and they were like, listen, well, actually their sales rep called me up for a job and he was their main sales rep. And I was like, why are you leaving? You're the only sales guy. He's like, I think they're going under. He's like, maybe you want to talk to him. Yeah. So I spoke to these guys and they were like, yeah, we're in trouble. We took jobs from like almost a dozen customers, like $5 grand a piece in deposits, and we can't fulfill it, blah, blah, blah. So I said to them, I said, listen, I'm not interested in any of your equipment. I'm not interested in your property. They had bought a property as well. I'm like, I'm interested in the phone number and I will help you guys out. I'm like, I'm not going to pay for the phone number. What I'll do is I'll finish those jobs you did. So I'm not going to make any profit on these jobs. Right. So I'll finish them. So you don't get any lawsuits with these people, but in return, I want your phone number. And because initially they wanted like 700,000 for the business. And I'm like, guys, it's not worth 700 grand right now. The equipment was garbage. You know, they just ran into the ground. So, and eventually initially they said no, but eventually they came back to me and said, fine, we'll do it. Just take these jobs and please finish them. And that's exactly what I did. And I was able to get control of that phone number. I was only maybe 12 months in business at that point, and the lead flow just started coming in from that phone number and it worked out. So again, like I didn't put out a ton of money. I didn't have a ton of money. That's why I couldn't even give them the money they wanted. I didn't have it anyway. So I'm like, if I could structure this where it's a win-win for everybody, and that's what I did. And they came back and they took the deal. So you never know.
Mind blowing, man. Yeah, I think that I love that. And in getting creative and thinking outside the box with the resources you have available and knowing the deal at hand and using that as leverage, I think it's brilliant, you know, because these people, and nobody likes to get into litigation. Litigation
Yep.
is like,
It's a nightmare.
Like the death whisper of any small business. And so if you can save somebody from a nasty litigation situation, like that in itself is sufficient payment. You were able to get so much value simply by keeping somebody's ass out of hot water,
Yep.
you know? So man, kudos. I haven't heard of that one yet, but that's well structured.
Yeah. So yeah, there's so many ways. And that's why I like to talk about it, because there's a lot of different ways. People think that, oh, you need to get an SBA loan. There's the only way to buy a business. No, there's a ton of different ways you could structure deals, guys. I mean, you could absolutely think outside the box, come up with win-win situations for everybody. And, you know, again, like you said, it is the Wild West. There's no rules. As long as everyone's happy or somewhat happy on both sides, right? No one's ever going to get 100% what they want. You guys got to be able to come to the middle and agree on the terms. And, you know, yeah, there's tons of different ways to structure these deals.
Yeah, and I think that what it takes, and kind of using your example, is you knew the situation of the business you ended up, you know, of the phone number, I guess you ended up basically
Yep.
acquiring. You knew their situation, you knew their story, you knew kind of the dynamics of the deal at hand, and you also took the time to build those relationships to be able to get that intel and that
Yes.
information. So I think that then also kind of brings into question of scalability of, like, you know, Teddy Slack, amazing relationship guy. We all love him, but there's only one Teddy. You know, you can only go out and build so many relationships,
Yes.
you know, with the time that you have in the day, and understand the dynamics and the context of so many deals. But that's where it's a balancing act. It's a juggling act of how you spend your time, how you spend your bandwidth. But again, you've obviously done it well and been able to operate alongside forming all of these relationships along the way. That has worked out for you.
Yeah, well, I think it's important for the listeners too. Like, so again, if you're in an industry and you're getting involved in the industry, go to the industry networking events. You know, they have a lot of conferences, and you're going to go and you're going to meet your competitors there, and that's totally fine. Don't look over there and be like, oh, it's my competitor, screw him. No, go shake his hand. Hey, how you doing? We're in the same industry. We're right down the street. You know, introduce yourself, because again, these guys will be open. You'd be very surprised how they open up to you and then you build those relationships, and who knows, you'd partner together at some point. The one guy I bought out in 2011, so he worked for a sales rep as a sales rep for me for 5 years. And then in 2018, I wound up going back into business with him in the same industry. So, you just never know where things are going to go. And that was the company that I scaled up and sold. And he was a big partner in that business. So you just never know where these relationships are going to go,
Absolutely. And I think it also kind of speaks to just being a industry expert. If you're in your area and you don't know the players and you don't know their stories and you don't know who got recently which big jobs or whatever, you just don't seem as informed as an industry expert in your field. Kind of same thing when I was in commercial real estate. If you're not really plugged into who recently just bought what property, or who's recently going in where, who just went dark, if you don't know kind of the latest and greatest kind of local news for your sector, it just doesn't bode well for you kind of across the board. So again, if you're in a sector, get involved with it. Know the other players, know what's going on, kind of know the local news on that front. So, and I tell buyers all the time, like, if you're not going to Chamber of Commerce events, like you got to be going. And again, the amount of local contractors I've met there have been fantastic. And again, they're also not even so focused on their own industry. They're focused on more of kind of a community basis at a Chamber of Commerce event. So I've met some awesome operators there. So encourage those meetings as well, but tons of resources out there, endless.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely true, man. This has been great, man. This has been a great conversation, Chris. I think we're bringing a lot of value to, other people that are in similar situations as you, right? So they want to get into home services. What are the next steps? What do they do? I mean, if you just want to give maybe a little bit of just background there, you mentioned maybe like a coaching program you got involved with. You want to talk a little bit about that? Like what the best way to get involved in doing this type of searching?
Yeah. The best resource I've had in my corner throughout the process has been this searcher school that I've recently joined. Again, Jed Morris runs it. Look up Jed Morris on LinkedIn. He had bought a business, a landscaping business, and had bought two. And the second one really did not work out well. And I will let him tell his own story, but he gives cautionary tales to buyers, kind of having gone through the process and seeing how ugly it can get when it's not done properly, and is now, again, the most valuable resource in how this process should properly be done that I've seen. So that's been so helpful. And then I would say it's pretty, again, it's the Wild West, it's open-ended, but get on LinkedIn, like research your industries, research your spaces, talk to people, get a mentor, reach out to podcast hosts. I reached out to Jack Carr from Owned and Operated, ended up guesting on him. So great to connect with you, Teddy. This has been an awesome conversation, but be establishing your own basis of community. Like you try to go this on your own, I promise you it's going to be very, very difficult. So get people in your corner, talk to people who've been around the block, get involved either with a school. Main Shares also runs a great entrepreneurship through acquisition. And Main Shares is free, I'm pretty sure. But they run a great course on it. So get some resources in your corner. Do not try to just get out there into the Wild West without a life raft. Like it's gonna be tough going. So
no, man, I appreciate it. I appreciate you coming on, man. Where can people find you, Chris, if they have any questions in reference to this?
Yeah, absolutely. You can find me on LinkedIn at Chris Barr -RE. You can also email me at chris@kcacquisitionpartners.com. I said, would love to hear from any and all of you. Fan mail is a fit thing I found from being on podcasts. I didn't expect that, but it's been great hearing from some people. So if anybody's got a question, I'm all ears.
All right, Chris. Well, I appreciate you coming on, and I look forward to staying in contact with you and watching your journey, man.
Likewise, Teddy. Thanks, man.
All right. Take it easy.